right. So if you're ready, I'll go ahead and kick things off. So, Aaron, great to be here with you today. As you know, I've been conducting interviews with a lot of talented security leaders for my Cyber Intelligence Weekly newsletter. We've been sharing a lot of great stories of accomplished security leaders, kind of across North America here, and very excited for you to be here today. Do you mind giving a quick introduction and quick background?
Not at all. I appreciate the invitation, Dan. It's always good to see you. Look, my journey, I guess, in general, is that I think about it the way that you drive when you live in Washington, D.C., which is you stand outside your car, you look at where you want to go, you turn 180 degrees, and you drive in the opposite direction. I have run away from cybersecurity more times than I can count. It was the first thing I started doing back when I was in high school, frankly. And I keep trying to get away from it, and it keeps sucking me back in. So I have done, all manner of systems engineering and administration work, incident response and intrusion detection for government clients, for private clients. I worked at Strauss Friedberg when it was a very small startup, and now has become one of the preeminent forensic firms. Apple when it was a small startup of 40,000 people, and now look at it, it's just fantastic. I did some work at Twilio over COVID time, and now I am leading the security function at DBT Labs, which is a SaaS startup where we help our customers transform data in their data warehouses and make it into actionable business intelligence. So I've seen a bunch of different things across the spectrum of consumer and business to business, and I have had a fantastic time building and leading teams, and that's really what my passion is.
I love that. I love that. And you've had lots of these twists and turns, and sounds like you spent a lot of time on the Beltway. I am curious, like, what keeps pulling you back into cyber, and what made you sort of realize that cyber was kind of the place for you, at least for now?
So I trace this back to a paper that I wrote when I was in high school, I think, that I still have somewhere in one of my archives, where the debate in government at the time was about the clipper chip and
Okay.
whether or not cable boxes should have to have this chip that let the government have access to things if they wanted it.
I remember
And
this. Yes.
yeah, so like I was just into privacy. And when I started in work, privacy and cybersecurity were basically the same thing.
Hmm.
So I went to college, and then I interned at a policy think tank called the Center for Democracy and Technology, which is really rooted in privacy, except that security was the same thing and cryptography was a big piece of it. And like we were kind of love-hate partners with the EFF and Epic. And it was a really interesting world that, as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I actually grew up, and my goal was to get out of technology, it kept sucking me back in. All my friends went to law school. I knew I didn't want to go to law school, despite the fact that I eventually went to law school. I just had this real kind of pull around what it means to exist in our world as an individual, how we retain our privacy and our private lives. Can we have a secure community? Like, can we actually do good intelligence work, good law enforcement work without giving up fundamental privacy rights? Or
Yeah.
do we have an
Great
unavoidable
question.
trade-off? So those things always figured big in my head, and that's what really kept me pulled into this world.
Yeah, it sounds like it's rooted kind of deep in your core, and there's a fascination slash maybe slight obsession about like those principles. And I find some of the best people in cyber have those deeply rooted principles, which is maybe a teaser for later when we talk about things that some of the younger folks and getting into this industry need to think about potentially. Well, that's super cool. And noticing too a trend, right, that I'm seeing a lot in these interviews I'm doing. Uh, a lot of leaders started their career in IT, and doing a lot of the more technical jobs. Um, so I'm kind of curious in the transition to question more around like your leadership style, career path. Um, I often like to say that leaders in security have to evolve much faster than the organizations they serve, to really keep up with everything that's going on. What made you realize in your career that uh, you're a technologist, but you're also a leader, right? And that you have to change your approach. You can't do it all yourself. You have to command a team, command uh, customers, clients, work with coworkers, other departments that need to implement the things that you're suggesting. Can you talk a little bit about how you realize those things over time?
Yeah, I think that being in a bunch of different industries, consumer and business to business, they have very different issues that come up as you are trying to lead teams and as you're trying to lead the businesses. What has one thing that happened to me fairly recently is I realized I had to change the way that I approached the function that I was driving and being a leader of that function when one of my teams just completely disintegrated over the course of a quarter. I entered the quarter with a fully functioning team. I left the quarter with 0 headcount in it.
Oh man.
And I had to dig in with my manager, my executive peers, my ICs that were still on the team. Like, we really had to diagnose what went wrong and why, when we thought we were building a team that was going to be successful and longstanding, it actually didn't function properly. And at the end of the day, what I realized was I was thinking about some of the problem space. So this is focused on application security, right? I was thinking about application security specifically from an angle that I thought was the right angle. It was an angle that we had been kind of moving to this idea that AppSec should be kind of engineering led and really engineering focused, and you should hire engineers to do that work. And so I really leaned into that. And I realized at the end of this road, as that team disintegrated, that I forgot that it's a security team. And so if you put that cart before the security horse, it doesn't necessarily work. And maybe other leaders have figured out ways to make that work really well. I did not succeed. And
Yeah.
so the takeaway, right, is what about how I was taking in information, how I was listening to my team, how I was trying to debug the problems in the organization did I get wrong? And I think I already kind of spoiled the end
The
result, which
punchline.
is
Yeah.
we've got to think security first and then all the other stuff second,
Yeah.
versus really leaning hard into, you're an engineering team, you report to the CTO, like you should hire engineers. And yeah, anyone can do security. That's not necessarily true. And so thinking about how I approach that as a leader and how I have those conversations and say, I get what you're saying and I
Yeah.
know my truth. My truth is I'm a security functional leader first.
So given that, like, what do you look for in people? Like when you're thinking about adding to your team or interviewing somebody, are you now more conscious of that security first mindset? Is there a specific question you ask or something you look for specifically?
There's no specific question that I'm gonna spoil. Um, look, I've always looked for people who are curious. And I've always thought that curiosity was a big deal. I've always thought that, folks who have a variety of experiences, people who've worked in different places, hopefully in different roles in different places, will bring diverse viewpoints to the team, and that's very important.
Sure.
But what I'm really looking for when I'm trying to hire folks for these functions now is someone who is capable of expressing that what they want isn't to do good security, but what they want is to change the culture of the company. They want to build something that is embedded in the fabric of how the company works.
Wow,
So
love
that's
that.
what I'm really looking for.
How do you find that?
Well, I can tell you that I have rebuilt the application security team in an incredible way with some fantastic resources, and I could not have done it without some help. Like
Yeah.
it would be very hard to find those people on my own. I actually had to go to some of these specialized search firms and work through those networks because there's a benefit to that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's very important to find people that are sort of mission driven and understanding the why behind they're in, like why are you in cyber? Why is this important to you? You know, what are you what are your goals? Like what are you trying to change? Um, Asking those types of questions, I think, can pull out a lot of like really interesting nuggets in a conversation. Um, and I personally, for our team, think that's also very, very important. Like I always like to say we're a people first technology cyber company, right? I think we really, really like to think about having the right people with the right mindset, the right mission, the right culture first. And then the other things can get layered on after. Um, and skills can be learned, right? But if you're missing that core essence, uh, like you said, then it's going to be hard to be successful. So changing direction slightly, when, thinking about current cyber landscape and, we were talking a little bit about attending RSA, for example, right? And you talk about a hype fest. Um, What do you think about, when you think about overhyped risk or security themes or tools or categories? What do you think, is that thing that maybe security leaders are spending too much time on?
Um, okay, I think this is a nuanced question, unfortunately, uh, because my threat model is very different from other people's threat models.
Very true.
So
So
your
risk
mileage will,
matters.
yeah, your mileage will vary if you're trying to defend against major adversary state actors versus drive-by ransomware gangs.
Yeah.
You may be investing in things that are, to me, really weird, but to you, you're getting hit 20 times a day, right? So there's a nuance. What I
Context
will
matters.
say,
Yes.
yeah, what I will say is that I think personally, one of the areas that security leaders over invest in and spend too much of their energy and time on is phishing simulations and trying to harden their workforce against phishing attacks. I don't think the return on investment there is anything worthwhile.
Yeah.
Um, and I also think that over the last few years, we have spent a massive amount of energy on different fine-grained access controls problems So it used to be the human trying to figure out how to best give somebody the specific permissions that they needed for the
Yeah.
role that they had.
Laser
Now
focus
it's
in. Yeah.
yeah, now it's non-human identity stuff, right? Can you
Right.
give the non-human identity the specific permissions? And I think we may have forgotten that there are easier ways to do those things, which is just to adopt more of a zero trust mindset and say, well, let's just not give anyone access to anything until they need it. And if
Yeah.
they need it, then we give it to them. And if we over permission for 10 minutes, no big deal. We reduce those permissions later. We take them away afterwards. Like, how do we manage a bit more efficiently this idea of giving people access to the resources they need at the time they need them versus the long-lived role that they specifically need for their job, and then they have to ask for new permissions every couple of days. I think those are two areas where I see us investing a lot of time and money with lower returns than we could get doing something a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah, and some of those things you mentioned too, I feel like have become core components of various regs and frameworks and models. You think of SOC and SOX and all those types of things. And I think they were created in an era where that was maybe important and the technology was different. But those controls, those ideas, those thoughts don't maybe match the current era with the current technologies, right?
Yeah, so the current technology, I assume that when you ask this question of what's the most overhyped security thing, the answer you get is AI, right?
A
And
lot.
and yeah, one of the things that I think thinking about like access controls and how we have not yet evolved to where the technology is that AI tools are really good at thinking about and modeling access. And so we could plug that in effectively in that stream and
Yeah.
then say this idea of least privilege needs to change. We don't need long-lived least privilege. What we need is some artificially intelligent model that determines at the time of the access request, should you get it or not?
Yeah. Real-time privilege, right?
Yeah. So I think you're spot on. We have these rules and regs where things have been written in, and we just kind of routinely do them in our programs, and we don't think about whether or not they're effective anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That is thought-provoking enough. I was ready to dim the lights when you mentioned, the phishing training thing, and I thought we were gonna really, go down that avenue or that alley for a minute. I'm glad we didn't. That is a hotly contested one. We'll just leave it where it is for now. Maybe a later date we could discuss that one more. But I
To be
think
clear,
you and I, yeah,
I'm not opposed to training people to act responsibly. I am opposed to tricking them into clicking on
same,
links. Yeah.
same, 100%, 100% agree with you. Um, Very cool. Are there any uncomfortable truths about enterprise security today that, stick in your craw a bit, like the user awareness training and how ineffective it may be? Like, is there anything else that you wish more people thought about in a different way?
Um, I mean, we're all we're all trying to make the best effort to do the right things. Um, it's interesting. We we don't have like a cybersecurity regulation. Like there's no specifically hardened way of doing the work we do, right?
Yeah.
A long time ago, I remember a conversation that a bunch of CISOs we had about, whether we could write a rule. Like the accountants have rules
Right.
about how you track assets and what things are called, and you map to a set of things, and then you can look at, and the auditors can look and see, well, you bought a car. Did you account for it as a car, or did you try to account for it as a flower? Like there, we don't have those things. And so we know there's no perfectly secure system. And we're trying to do the best we can as we build airplanes mid-flight with all of our enterprise systems. And we tend to get it wrong in some really fantastic ways. But I think the most comfortable truth is there aren't any of us, as far as I know, who want to do a bad job. The uncomfortable truth is there are most of us who have no idea how to do the best job. We know enough to do good jobs, and we are trying our darndest to do as well as we can.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of generally accepted best practices, but to your point, like that's at a much higher level. When you helicopter into a company, into a different environment, a different organization, all bets could be off, right? Like the things that you learned in computer science class or the things you even learned at your last job could be completely irrelevant and it could be completely different contextually, in a new place. I like how you framed it, a lot of times in cyber, it is engineers on the front line, close to the flames, like trying to figure out something they've never done before, right? There is a lot of that every day.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough business leaders realize that, how hard that is.
It is extremely exciting, right? For me, for my colleagues, for my team members, it's what drives us a lot of the time is
Yeah,
that novelty.
yeah,
But yeah, the expectation from a business leader that you will prevent a breach
right,
is an inappropriate expectation.
right. I saw that someone posted that in a job description recently. Like goals, zero breaches. It's like, what?
Good goal. We're going to hit that 60%
Yeah,
of the time. Like,
yeah. 60% of the time, every time. Um, so kind of along that thread, Aaron, we've got a lot of people who have very well-intentioned meaning. They want to do the right thing. They work intensely hard. Um, how do we protect our people from, this concept of burnout? We hear about burnout a lot in cyber.
mhm.
What are some strategies that have worked for you? What have you seen work, not work in your career?
Um, well, what I have seen is a lot of people think you can handle burnout by taking your overextended incident responders out to dinner
Yeah,
or giving them, $1,000 bonus. Um, and I think that that's a nice thing. And I think, we should always be looking at pay as ways to reward people for good work, but that is not a burnout prevention strategy.
yeah,
Burnout isn't about the fact that people are working really hard, that they're working many hours, and that they are losing sleep as much as it's about they consistently show up to a job and feel like their leadership is disengaged from what they're doing and they don't have impact and they don't feel like they are moving the needle.
right.
When the same thing happens day in, day out, when you handle an incident last month that you handle the same darn thing again yesterday and you handle the same thing in 2 weeks, you feel like there is an inability to impact the culture and impact the product and impact the company. So I think that one of the things that I have done in my current role that I think is very important for everyone to do is I have fought as hard as possible to get time in front of teams and get time in front of the company and just say, hey, here's what we're doing. And all of this stuff that's happening in the world is pretty scary. And we can talk about public breaches, and we can talk about all the things that people are dealing with, and we can talk about how we are facing the same problems, and we have evidence, and I can show you how it's happened to us. And I don't want you to worry about it, because that's my job. And if you see something, say something, engage with me, engage with my team, because that proves to us that you're listening, that you're engaged in trying to make the company better, and that you are a friend and an ally, and you're willing to work with us. Quite frankly, the swag campaign that I started here has been incredible. I have a challenge coin that I will give to people when they do incredible security champion type work, and they show up and they show us that they are really engaged. We give out stickers and pins and things, like, just to keep people engaged in the security program. And I think that that's the leadership job. And
Yeah.
so when you can create excitement amongst your peer leaders, when you can show the company that you are doing things of value, and they are coming to the team and engaging proactively with the team feels like they're a part of the actual program, and
Yep.
not like an emergency responder that you just call 911 whenever stuff goes wrong
Flip a
and you don't
switch
really
and
think about us.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what burnout's really about. It's about that disengagement in the company level and the leadership level, that if you can change as the security leader, again, going back to, I want to hire people who are willing to work to change culture, that will create a flywheel.
I love that. So the leader of the security team helps build, the gravitas, and, furthers the understanding of what the security team does, how it's tied to the mission, how it supports the company, how it makes, more cyber resilient companies a more successful company. And that in turn gives more meaning, to the work that your people are doing, right? Which, satisfies, I think that's one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Doing meaningful work.
Yeah.
So I think that's how we got there. But I love that strategy, right? You make the work more meaningful through good leadership. You tie that in, you show your team how meaningful that is, and that leads to a fulfilling career.
Yeah, I like you added to what I said in a pretty significant way about showing the value of cyber resilience. I don't think I said that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you meant that.
Yeah,
I feel
I
that.
did.
Um, so misconception wise, I meet a lot of younger cyber professionals, and they could be like 19, 20, just about to graduate college, and I'm like, what do you want to do in your career? And they go, I want to be a CISO, or I want to be like a principal hacker of all things. Um, what's one of the biggest misconceptions that a younger cyber professional has about what being a CISO actually means?
Um, I, I don't know. I feel like we have done a fairly good job of trying to convince younger people that being a CISO isn't the role that they think it is. And I have met a lot of younger people who, when asked the question, so do you want to be a CISO, have said, absolutely not. That job is too much stress. I just like what I'm doing. But I think that ultimately what it comes down to is, you look at kind of any leadership role, but ours maybe is unique. Uh, how much time do I spend not doing security work
Hmm.
versus how much time do I actually get to engage in what I think is the interesting world of cybersecurity? Like, way more of my time is spent on budgeting and people management and listening to my partners in the go-to-market org and working on marketing materials and talking to people like you so that I can learn more about what other people are experiencing, and not actually doing security.
Right.
And so I love security and I love technology, and that's why I'm in this world. Yet I choose to spend the vast majority of my time outside of the space.
Yeah. Is that hard? Is that hard for you? Like, do you yearn to be much more into the details sometimes?
When I wake up and when I go to sleep, yes. When I'm in the flow during the day, I love this job.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that it is fantastically interesting to network and learn about what other people are doing and try to figure out, okay, if I'm going to influence the cultural shift, what do these people care about and how do they see the world that is fundamentally different from how I see the world, and how do we work together to make a functioning business? I think that is a fantastic problem to solve. That is a leadership problem to solve. It is not a security problem. But
Yeah.
if I want my team to feel engaged and not burn out, and I want impact, then that's the way to get it. And so recognizing that there's a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There, right? Your ability to be a functional technical security practitioner is not the most important thing for your success as a CISO.
So true.
It's got to be there. You have to have that foundation, but you have to enjoy talking to people, learning about what their problems are, and figuring out how you can help them and how they can help you, so that you can align on making a really long-lasting, successful business.
Hmm. Yeah. A business understanding is also, yeah, like you said, very much required, and a lot more business level talks and discussions. Um, so we're getting to one of the questions that I'd love to ask, and I've had a lot of fun responses. If you could put a message on a billboard, and you live in a great area with lots of great tech billboards, I've got to say. So imagine you're driving, on the 101, about to, cross the Golden Gate Bridge, big billboard, for it's, every new CISO would read on their drive to work every day. What would it be? What would the message
I,
be?
I need a marketing consultant to help me with this one, because I'm not good with pithy slogans. Um, I mean, things that come to mind are like, it's going to be okay, because it will. But really, for me to keep myself motivated, it's play the long game.
Tell me more.
This so
Yeah,
when I started this job, I came up with my list of things that I wanted to do,
yeah.
and I have not accomplished all of them.
Personal goals, you're saying.
Well, things that, so like markers of a good security program. But what is it that
Okay,
I need to
okay.
change in order to
Yeah,
make
got it.
to feel like I have my impact, right,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not burn out?
yeah, yeah,
They are not 3-month goals. They are not 6-month goals. They are not 12-month goals. They are career goals.
yeah,
Like, if I can knock one of those things off the board over the course of 10 years, that's a good result,
yeah,
because this is a long game.
yeah. I like that. Play the long game. Yeah, short-term thinking in cyber, that could lead to burnout. That could lead to a lot of bad things. It's gonna be okay. I think that's also another really good one, right? Like you've obviously been in the middle of a lot of probably hairy situations over time. I have as well. And it's hard to imagine in the middle of those situations, like it will be okay eventually. It doesn't seem that way, but uh, I think that's good to follow in life, in a cyber career, but also in life, right? And that's a good way of thinking. Um, just being mindful of time. I know we're getting tight on time. Uh, if our careers are obviously shaped by a lot of people, right? Is there anyone in your network that you would like to say thank you to, or call them out because they've made such a great impact on you personally in your career? What would you say to them? And who would that be?
I have to name names.
You don't have to name names. You use a first name.
Um, Look, one of the greatest things about this cybersecurity world is that we as cybersecurity leaders aren't really the competitive advantage for our businesses. And so when it comes to networking, we have forums and we network and we talk like a lot about what we do and our failures and our successes
Yep.
in ways that, and when I talk to CTO colleagues, hey, do you have a network of CTO? Yeah, we have a network, but do you talk about that? No, we would never talk about that
Right.
because that's our competitive advantage, right? So we can be super open. One of the people that has been phenomenal about these communities is Clint Maples,
Okay.
uh, who he's the CISO at Robert Half,
Okay.
and he is the administrator and kind of driving force behind the this one information security leadership foundation community that has been immensely helpful to me in my career and my ability to synthesize things and really work through ideas. So I think he's a guy that I tell him thank you when I see him, and I love seeing him. But um, he's a guy that has done phenomenal work for this community.
I love that. I'm sure Clint will love to hear that when this gets published. So
Yeah, thanks, Clint.
excellent. Well, thank you so much, Aaron. It's been phenomenal to have this discussion, and I want to thank you for being so open and honest and sharing. To your last point, I think cybersecurity is one of those communities where there's so much open source, whether it's code or tools or ideas or thoughts. Like that is one of the foundations of cybersecurity that really drew me into. I'm like, oh my God, like no matter where you work, people share things with you. Like that's super cool, right?
Yeah,
So we share that love and that idea of open source. So Aaron, again, thank you so much.